Good day everybody, and welcome to Kampala Road. Today a video a bit different. I want to talk about and let you know how living overseas I go about buying product from mainly the UK, obviously, because that's where it all comes from. Having been doing this for well over 20 years, this last incarnation of my railway in 3 different countries, thought it might be useful to show you what I get up to. Just before that, at the beginning of this video and before I hand over to myself, which is now, a quick thank you to some of the people who have really positive comments on my previous videos. So let's go and listen to me drone on again. Before I start, I would like to say a big thank you to all the positive comments that I'm getting from my videos, and there are some remarkable comments, I have to say. I'm blown away. I'm very humble from them, and I'll give you an example, and I won't name names, but you know who you are. On my video about the Dapol 122 failure, I had a viewer write to me and say he'd be quite happy to send me a replacement, give me one of his from his collection. I mean, what do you say to that? I refused. I said thank you very much, I couldn't possibly accept that offer. But I think that sort of thing just shows, you know, the people in the hobby are fantastic in the main, and the support has been tremendous through all the videos. I don't think I've had a negative comment. That's asking for trouble, isn't it? A negative comment yet. Just amazing. So thank you very much for those offers and the support. Right, there is a train running in the background. I've slowed it down. It's a P2 actually, for change. So for you guys in the UK, which are the majority of the viewers on my channel, I thought I'd show you how you can actually buy something in the UK, landed at your doorstep here on the other side of the planet, cheaper than you can go and buy it in your model shop and take it home. Not rubbing it in your face, but just thought I'd say that. So there are a number of ways. Now I've bought product from the UK in 3 different countries. Papua New Guinea when I was there, up until 2015 when the layout was there. Obviously in Uganda back in the early 2000s, and more recently, and at the moment I'm buying into Australia, which is slightly different to the other 2 countries. I'm talking about outside the EU, and it may be different for other people. This is my experience, and if you're sitting here in Australia or New Zealand or whatever, and US, and got some other ideas, then please put them in the comments below. Obviously the thing buying out of the UK is to look for GST, or VAT as you call it over there, which is 20%, which is a huge amount of money, and generally pays for postage, but more recently, given the cost increases of items, or railway items, it covers more than the postage. And if you're smart, you can really get some bargains, you can really make it work to your advantage. And that was the beauty with the Hattons website. They were way ahead of anybody else as far as ordering. They had the trunk, which I think anybody overseas is missing at the moment until somebody else starts it. Trunk was a facility where you order over a period of time. You buy it there and then, but then they store it for you, and you add to the trunk. You add your items until you are ready to go. You press the button and they send it. So you could get bargains over a period of months and then get it sent over once. Whereas at the other shops, you saw a bargain, you had to buy it there and then. And so the trunk was brilliant. And the beauty of Hattons' website was you could, everything was weighed. So on the website you could see how much it weighed. They had the postal breakdowns as well for 500 grams, 1 kilo, 1.5, 2 kilos, etc. So you could work out from your trunk how much your parcels were weighing, how much to get up to the next level of postage, up to the next postage level, and get the optimum amount from saving on your VAT. So I'll show you some examples. That was Hattons. Other websites you've got to be a little bit careful of. Some don't do the VAT, the smaller companies don't do the VAT duty drawback. Some do and some don't, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then some, you've got to watch the postage. So you've got to be a bit careful. But all in all, if you're smart, you can generally land everything for less than what if you walked into a model shop in the UK and paid for it. And that's the target. So, for example, if you buy something for £120, the cost to you is £100, and the £20 goes to postage. And that varies dramatically between model shops. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but just before I give you some examples, if I was ordering in Uganda, which I still do, I generally, you get the 20% off, and that allows for postage, and I ask for Royal Mail. And since COVID, that's been a problem, because a lot of companies only want to send courier, and courier is about twice or 2.5 times the price of Royal Mail. In Australia, and I believe the same for New Zealand, they've introduced a rule where there is a 10% GST on imported product. Now, Hattons got into difficulty with that. This was done before COVID, and it was all down to one man here in Australia who runs a large retail empire who was suffering because of online shopping. He lobbied the government very heavily to introduce an import tax, which you couldn't really because of the GATT agreement. The GATT agreement being, it's now changed its name, but originally it was called the GATT agreement. Under $1,000, everything was duty free. And in the Land Rover world, which is my other world, parts are very expensive, so the shops in the UK break up that order so that when you receive something, it comes in lower than $1,000, and then they send the next part of the order and the next part of the order depending on how much. So this guy lobbied the government, and they introduced a GST or a VAT of 10%, and they sent a message out to all retailers around the world to say they had to introduce a 10% tax, which the Australian government would collect. So everybody was basically the taxman for Australia. Hattons fell into line straight away, and I'm not sure why they closed down. I think there's more to it than what we know, but they say that 20% of their business was Australia. They were absorbing the 10% tax, thus they made no money. Sounds like a crazy idea. Rails, from my experience, didn't do it. They just carried on as normal, ignored the instruction, as did the smaller model shops, and they survived. I have an example here of the Land Rover parts shop, for example. They do 10% GST, so they are a tax collector for the Australian government. Now, most model shops don't do it because they're too small, and that is fortuitous. But some do, and Hattons was one of them that did, and then didn't, then did, and then didn't, or hid it. I'm not sure how they did it. But they got into trouble, and that's what happens, as I said. The VAT side of things, the larger shops will do it, the smaller shops will not take VAT off because there's paperwork involved and they have to have a license from the government or whatever. I found out, and for my fellow modelers over here, with rails, if you buy new, you get VAT off. If you buy second hand or pre-owned, they don't take the VAT off. Now, I complained. I bought something, and rails pre-owned tends to be brand new, unopened, less risk for them, I guess. I complained. I ordered a locomotive and they sent it to me full price. I got a reply back saying they had an agreement with the government that they get a rebate from the government for sending out pre-owned items, but they don't have to pass on the 20% VAT to the customer. Nobody else does that, so I'm not too sure why rails do it. Me being of suspicious mind, there was a scam involved, but hey, rails are reputable, and as long as you buy new, you get VAT off. And their website has come up a long way since is it Jack from Hattons has obviously putting his magic into their website and is improving it every week. You can see that. Example here. So here's a Hattons. I bought a dynamometer car. Did I pronounce that correctly? £118. Ex-VAT £99. You probably can't see this on the camera. £99, and then £13 postage. So that landed, what's that? £3 or £4 less than if you bought it in a model shop here in Australia. It was faulty, but there you go, that's the story of my life, isn't it? A faulty product. Another one, for example, is just before Christmas, Kernow I noticed a split head code 37, BR Blue, for $1.99, the Bachmann version with sound. So, the invoice, I'm probably showing my address, but I don't really mind. Less VAT is $166.66, £15 postage, total price $181.66. So still a substantial reduction from the $1.99 if I'd walked into Kernow and bought it. This is how you can save money, or get a bargain, or rort the system, whichever way you want to look at it. And Kernow are very good. Bit more expensive than rails, but they tend to be very good. They always say many thanks on their invoice. They always write this with a little smiley emoji. What's this one? This is a Class 45, which featured on my last video, I think. I waited when Helgen launched that. It was a ridiculous price. Nobody likes Helgen locomotives because they think they're crap. They're not. They're pretty good. So I waited for the price to come down. Came down to £130, I think. So my price less VAT is 108. Again, Kernow, £15, sorry, postage, 123. Again, much cheaper, or cheaper than if I went into a shop. That's how you can beat the system, if you like, beat the taxman. Kernow don't put the 10% GST on. It flies under the radar coming into Australia. Hattons did, as I said, then didn't, then did. Rails don't bother, so I tend to stick to the retailers that avoid the 10% GST, and I hope I don't get them into trouble saying that. So as you can see, with the savings, and now the cost of models has gone up so much, the savings you can get are huge. This is my invoice for the Accurascale Class 37 first edition, the one I did the video on, the faulty motor. $269.95, a great price compared to everybody else, and I think that's where Accurascale are levelling the playing field, doing a great job. My price was $216. So a substantial saving from the $270 price, retail price. Postage was $28 though, and that is because of the box sizes. The box on a Accurascale is huge, and I will show you an example, one I have prepared earlier. This is the, and I'll just zoom out, I think. Excuse me while I zoom out. This is the, I'm very sweaty, it's well into 35 degrees today, so I'm a bit sweaty. That's my Christmas present, haven't opened it yet, I should have done, a bit slack. My split head code with sound. £15 postage. This is the Accurascale box, fantastic box, beautiful, lots of literature inside, £28 postage. Now I understand that the store may put a bit of price on for packaging, but substantial difference. And all my parcels from Kernow are around about the £15. And I found that rails is very, this is from Hattons, but now rails is really up and down on their postage and what you get. Another group I will not buy from anymore is eBay. eBay, being a big corporate, are forced to introduce a 10% GST tax on any item you order to Australia. So I tend not to buy from eBay anymore, which is a bit of a shame because that's quite a big sort of store, market store if you like, that is closed off to me. Unless, of course, you absolutely need it or it's a bargain and the 10% doesn't hurt so much. Another store I order from is TMC. They do take the GST off, or the VAT off. They don't charge GST, getting a bit confusing. I did get an order from them where they forgot to take the VAT off, and I complained and they took it off immediately, no questions asked. They acknowledged it was a mistake. However, this is a TMC invoice to me, half a piece of A4. They are a Yorkshire company. Yorkshire people are known to be stingy, so there you go. I am a Yorkshireman myself, before anybody jumps up and down, so I do know that. Again, very, very basic invoice there. In fact, it doesn't even tell me anything. It just says the price was 108. It doesn't put the postage on there or anything. And that is the problem with the TMC website, is because you're overseas, it doesn't automatically work out your price. It doesn't automatically work out your postage. You order, then obviously they still do that manually in the shop. And on these ones, that was a 56. So it was 130 pounds. I got it for 108. I can't remember the postage. But these ones, this Lima sea cows, which I have featured in the video, they're great. And they've been weathered by TMC as well. It took 2 weeks for them I paid for it, and I followed up twice with an email. It took them 2 weeks to sort out the postage and actually get it on its way. So there's a little bit of inexperience in places as well, I'd suggest. So, do I support local model shops? The answer is yes, in a certain way. Model railway stuff is incredibly expensive here, and the other issue we've got here is the Australian dollar has collapsed basically in the last few months, exchange rate wise, and it's now $2 to the pound, where it was about, I don't know, 170, 160. So I'll give you an example. My second batch of Acura Scale Mark II Cs this time has just arrived from Rails. Massive box. I ordered 6. When I ordered those, or pre-ordered those, about a year ago, they were $92 each. When they arrived here, the current exchange rate, and I paid for them, they're $99 each. So I got a bit stung by the exchange rate loss. Having said that, I'm still ahead. They're £59, I think, in the UK. I think $100 here is £50. So I'm still ahead, even the landed cost. So without that, etc., each coach has cost me £50 landed cost at my front door here in Brisbane. Do I support local shops? Yes, I do. And again, you've got to be clever. I ordered track from I won't say which company it is. I ordered track from a company. It was very cheap, but the postage was enormous. And I think some companies make up money on postage. So I ordered a packet of track for, I think it was £60, but they wanted £58 postage for it. Another company had this particular pack for £70 and only wanted £25 postage for it. So you tell me. However, I think Pico about a year ago had a price rise in the UK, and the track went up from a couple of times. It went up, and it was quite expensive out of the UK. So I found this for the equivalent of £40 here in Australia, and that was from my local model shop, and it's the wood style sleeper. The concrete sleeper here is twice the price, and the model shop did ring up Pico representative in Australia and asked why, and they said nobody buys it here, that's why. So little is sold. So concrete, I was very careful how much I bought. The issue is that, or to my advantage, was pico prices skyrocketed, but the flow down to Australia of that price increase didn't take place immediately. It took several months. So I noticed I was buying medium radius points and express points, pico, and they were retailing for about $45. And I went into the model shop and looked at that and thought, ooh. And I rummaged through his shelf, and he had some older ones, brand new, in the packet for $29. He just hadn't changed the price up to the new price. So yes, I do support the local model shops. I buy the paints there, the weathering powders. I will buy the ballast there because it's not worth, ballast is so heavy it's not worth getting it mailed out. So the local model shops do serve a purpose, but I have to say that if about $70 for a railroad wagon, $150 for a railroad coach is really, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I think that's why the hobby suffers. There's two reasons why the hobby suffers in this country. One, we're an outdoor country, and it's very hot at this time of year. And secondly, the cost of model railways is huge. Most of my purchasing is online. I study the websites carefully. These things have gone, unfortunately, and they're a thing of beauty, aren't they? But they've gone. I don't get the magazines, again, due to cost, really. And if you go to a shop here, the news agents are rubbish here, and the magazine will be 3 or 4 months out of date. But I study online what to get. I mean, the hobby is expensive, but you can get some real bargains. I bought recently a Helgen Class 25. I mean, that was, I think, to me, landed here, it came in under £70. I mean, that's cheaper than buying product back in 2018 and 2019. If you're not fussy about your livery, which most of us are, you can get some real bargains. If you're fussy about the livery, then either be patient and wait for the prices to drop, or you pay the premium. So, for example, I'm waiting the Helgen 47, the Intercity executive livery, not the Swallow, but the executive. I've noted that when they launched it. I think it was over £200. I think you can now get it for about 160, and I'm still waiting because it's Helgen. They'll drop the price again. I can wait.